In this episode of Shia Talent, we look at Samer Issawi, a born and raised Canadian Muslim living in the West. We look into the life of a Shia Muslim, dealing with the daily struggles as he balances life and religion, all while living in a predominantly non-Muslim country.
إني ألقى الإناس في صومي وصلاتي ودعائي للرحمن وجميع الطاعات. إني ألقى الإناس في صومي وصلاتي ودعائي للرحمن وجميع الطاعات.
Samer is one of the guys where he's always there for you. Anything you ever needed, he's there for you.
And this is not me, boasting a friend. This is me just, speaking out of my heart. Every time we've gotten together with Samer or Hussein, every time we've gone out together, gone camping, etc., it feels like, I don't know how to describe it, it feels like you have an uplifting character, with you. That's because of his deep spirituality. He's a very humble individual. He's done very well for himself at a young age. He has, professionally done great. He has married early on, which is very admirable. He has a beautiful child who is 2 years. So he, in terms of his age and his, outlook on life and what he's done thus far, I think he's done quite well for himself. For 26 years old, that's quite amazing.
It was very hard to find people like him in the society because a lot of the society right now are very westernized in the community. And it's a great pleasure to have someone who understands you and have the traditions that we have back home in someone right now. And of course, we appreciate that very much.
In life, I find one of the most inspirational things to me is there's a specific quote from Imam Ali alayhi salam where he says, "There's nothing that I do where I do not think of Allah before, during, and after." And to me, this type of a quote, it's just kind of like a way of life for me. And I feel like if I try to abide by this quote, I feel like it's a way of staying away from sin, a way of doing good, not just to me, but to my family, to my neighbors, to our community, to show people what Ahlul Bayt really means. And it changes me as a person as well.
The way I deal with living in a country like this, which is mainly Christians, mainly non-Muslims, I mean, just like any other country, you do your own thing, you blend in, and of course, on your own time at home is when you do your religious acts. And I personally, I strongly find that the teachings of Ahlul Bayt really tend to help me stick to my religious beliefs, and I tend to stick to what I normally do. I don't really change myself for the country that I live in or for anyone else. I tend to stick to my beliefs, stick to my ways, the way I was taught from my parents and the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt. And even at work, I pray on time. I leave when it's time to pray. I go on my own time. I sit aside, I do my own thing, I pray, I come back, and everybody at work, they know that when I'm gone, they know what I'm doing. They're aware that because of my religion, we have certain times of the day that we're obligated to pray, and I would rather pray on time than to make up for it at home. So they're all aware of what I do and who I am, and that's something I'm proud of. I like to stick to what I do.
Life in Canada is it's a very comfortable environment. There's people, we don't feel like we're made to feel at home, really, because it's such a culturally diverse society. People from many places around the world. Luckily, we have the freedom to practice our religion safely, relaxed, and we have a great healthcare system, many job opportunities. It's a good place for a family to come from another country, just to come and settle in, and they will feel comfortable here. Growing up as a Muslim, being born and raised as a Muslim in Canada, has its negatives. Number one, it's a distraction. I mean, if back home in Muslim countries, everybody during Ramadan fasts together. During Ashura, we mourn together. We break our fast together during Ramadan. We have the celebrations of the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt. And you do that as a society, everybody. You see the decorations in our streets, everything. Here in Canada, you feel like it's more secular. It's more on your own. You don't feel the love of everybody with you. So sometimes during times of mourning, for example, during Ashura, when you leave, you see people of other cultures all happy, and really inside you, you're mourning. You're in a time of mourning, and there's so many distractions that just pull you away from religion.
It's not easy living in the West. It's not easy maintaining that religious side, that spiritual side, while at the same time going after, you know, your professional life, your ambitions, your foreign friends who don't share the same religion, don't share the same culture. So to be able to stay on that path, and you know, even at a young age, in your mid-20s, to be able to develop yourself to that point, I feel like it's very admirable, and everybody should strive to do that.
The one benefit I find in Canada is that because you feel that like it's more secular in Canada, you feel like you have something to search for. There's something in you that needs to be resolved. You tend to read more, you look more into depth of your religion, you do a lot more research. We go to the mosque quite a bit to learn more about our religion, because we don't have that exposure in this country.
I have my neighbors, they're elderly, and the husband has many medical problems, and it's just him and his wife. They live in the house, no kids. And I tend to, Islam teaches us to take care of our neighbors in any way possible. And I try my best as much as I can when I'm home. I take the garbage out for them. I shovel the grass I shovel the snow in the winter, cut the grass in the summer. Sometimes he needs something moved in the house or in the garage. He'll call me up, and I'll tell him, of course I'll be there for you, anytime. And that's what Islam teaches. Islam always teaches us to be good with our neighbors, and not just neighbors, to be good with everyone.
I have known Brother Samer for 8 years now. He is my brother-in-law, and I'm very glad to have such a brother-in-law.
The simplest thing that any man should be doing is just to simply help out their wife. Don't rely on her for everything. They're not our servants. They have equal rights just as we do. We should be helping them out, making things easier on them. They have such a hard life as well, taking care of children, taking care of the house. We need to help them out with that. And the one particular quote from the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is where he says, "The best of men are those who are best to their wives." And I think every man nowadays should remember that.
It's very hard to find someone from traditions like back home with that manner, with being respectful, not just to me, towards his wife, his kids, my family, the side of the family. He's very respectful, and he's loved by everybody. And a lot of times there's a lot of problems when it comes to that stuff, because you feel like they're not the way you are, but he adapted into the family like it was nothing. He came into the family and he adapted right away, which was great. And anything we ever asked him to do, he was there, and he's done it in the best possible way he can.
To me personally, the two most amazing examples of marriage in all of our history, even today, was the marriage between Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam and Imam Ali alayhi salam. And another example is Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, as well as his wife Khadija alayhi salam, sallallahu alayha. And I find that if we can just try our best to live the way they lived, to treat each other in marriage the way they treated each other, putting aside all of our cultural differences that we have nowadays that sometimes portrays Islam in a negative way, especially in the West, when we're in the middle of different cultures in a basically Christian-based society, that can portray Islam in a negative way. So I think that we need to even just kind of maybe set aside our cultural differences and maybe look at the roots of our religion.
The dream I had, there's a dua called Dua al-Ahad, and it's promised by one of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt that if one reads that dua for 40 nights straight, and every day after Salat al-Fajr, they're promised to be with Imam al-Mahdi Ajjallahu Farajahu upon his return. And I was on my 40th. It was on my 40th day of reading that dua, and I recited the dua after my Salat al-Fajr. I went to sleep, and then alhamdulillah, I had a dream that me, my mom, and my brother, we were all in the middle of the ocean, and we were actually holding on to a cage in the middle of the ocean. And somehow we had something on our backs, where every time we were about to sink and go below the water, we would put something inside that cage which would make us afloat. And it came to a point where we just ran out of things to put inside the cage to keep us afloat. So we eventually, all three of us, were looking at each other. We became eye level with each other in the water. And then when we finally, all of us went head under the water, I remembered closing my eyes and I said to myself, and this is in my dream, I said to myself, Ya Sahib al-Zaman. And then all I remember seeing was the water just being split into two. And then something pulled me and my mom and my brother directly straight up out of the water. And I knew in my mind and in my heart that was my Imam al-Mahdi.
I have known Brother Samer for about 5 years now. He is the brother-in-law of a good friend of mine, Hussein, who I've known since childhood. I was introduced through several friendly outings, family gatherings, stuff like that, and we've come to know each other quite well. I feel like we fit in terms of personalities and character.
The one thing our family in particular does here in Canada to get closer to the Ahlul Bayt, we tend to hold a lot of family gatherings, typically once or twice every week at one of our family's houses. And particularly if we try our best to meet up on Thursdays, we have everyone meet together, we read Dua Kumail as a family, and Tuesdays we read Dua Tawassul as a family. Even if we don't get the chance to go out, or I'm just home with my wife and my son, I want to make it a habit in my home, get my son and my wife used to listening to the du'as of the Ahlul Bayt, and just getting into that, making it a cultural norm, a religious norm for us. And one of the main reasons why we tend to get together as a family is because we live in such a secular society. We want our family to stay close, because really in Canada, our family is the main thing that we have in this country.
So within the period of 5 years, I believe when I first was introduced, that was when he was getting to know my friend Hussein's his sister, and then up until where we are now, he has, alhamdulillah, he has a good marriage, he has a beautiful family, he has professionally done good for himself. So I think within a period of 5 years, I've kind of seen him progress tremendously, which is amazing to see. To see a person, develop from recent grad, getting into a new profession, to a point where he's about to open up his own shop. That's quite amazing. He has a 2-year-old kid. He has a house. Not a lot of people at 26 have a house or have a kid or or opening up their own business. So it's quite admirable in my opinion.
Sure, definitely. Okay. What? How are you? Good. All right, this way today. Any changes to your health since the last time we saw you?
No, everything seems fine.
Okay, Fuad, so we're going to schedule your next 6-month appointment.
Okay.
Is July okay for you?
Yeah, morning.
Morning?
When I was getting my real estate license, I needed some kind of motivation. And I didn't have that full motivation everywhere I go. A lot of people were telling me, don't do it, it's not a good thing, and it's very hard to make money and such. So Samer, my brother-in-law, was always the one who was pushing me. He was telling me, you know what, you can do it, you can succeed, this is money making. He actually did some research for me and came with a bunch of papers and he told me, look at this. This is what people are making, this is how they're doing it. And you know what, because of him, I got into the real estate business because I found it, a lot easier when someone's motivating you to do a job that you're hesitant about. So I thank him for that. I mean, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here right now.
I've been working at my clinic with my doctor for about 10 years now, approximately, and 5 years as a dental hygienist. On a business level right now, my aspiration is I'm just starting up a new clinic, a dental clinic, and I pray to God that inshallah it works well. And the one thing I've always wanted was to have my business that I open up, and also not just the business, but have it close to the mosque where we pray. And subhanAllah, it worked out where it's literally a 2-minute drive just from my work to the mosque. So
this is where the new clinic is. I'll be opening up hopefully, inshallah. Be right this way. So basically this is the clinic right here. It's a big mess right now. Construction is just about to start. We're waiting for a couple of permits. The door you walk in from right here, this is going to be the reception area. You walk in over this way. This is the waiting room area right over here. And then you can kind of see the drawing on the floor here. It kind of separates it. This is going to be the first clinic room. And you keep walking a little farther down and have a sterilization room over here. And a little bit of a small office over here on the left side. You have a second clinical area here on the right. And a little bit farther down. This is the third clinical room. It's going to be over here. And you have a compressor room on the left. And over here is going to be the lab room.
The way I treat non-Muslims is the way I would treat anyone else, really. I mean, the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt and the Prophet especially was to treat everyone with equal respect, regardless of religion, of their belief, anything at all, regardless of that. In Canada right now, actually, what happened earlier this year, there was an incident where a supposed Muslim went into our parliament building, which is a government building. Unfortunately, he shot some people, and then he ended up getting killed himself. And this all happened while I was at work, and a bunch of the people at work were watching this live on TV. And after this happened, a few of them got together, and they came up to me and they said, Samer, you know, is this what he's doing? Is this a part of your religion? Is this what you guys practice? Is this what you guys believe? I told her, you know what? I have to give them examples. So I give them two simple examples. Number one, I give them, for example, the KKK. They claim to be the true Christians, they follow the Bible. Anyone who goes against them, they get killed. I told them nobody blames the Christians for what these people did. I also gave example of Adolf Hitler. When he tried to commit genocide, killing all the Jewish people, nobody blamed the Germans for what he did. So why are people nowadays blaming us for what ISIS is doing? It's not our responsibility. They are not real Muslims.
I'm just visiting a little friend over here, a friend of mine here, and as Canadian respect, we bring something with us. We never go in empty-handed. So I'll bring in some coffee, some caffeine. He leaves the front door open for us every time we come. Hello.
So first of all, I like to treat people the way I like to be treated. And if someone has wronged me, there's no doubt in my mind that I would forgive them. I mean, first of all, if God is all forgiving, if Allah is all forgiving, who are we not to forgive? And on another note as well, Ahlul Bayt, for example, if they're ma'asumeen, we should be learning from them, taking their teachings and putting it and showing the world what we learned from them. Show them what the true Islam is. And if they are also very forgiving. If they're forgiving as well, who are we not to forgive as well? One particular example of forgiveness from the Ahlul Bayt is when Imam Hussein alayhi salam forgave Hur bin Yazid al-Riyahi. To forgive a man like that who ended up leading him to this day. I don't know if anybody in today's society can even picture or imagine doing that, really. It takes a lot of courage, a lot of strength and patience to be able to do something like that.
Okay, so we're on our way to go pick up the lab coats for my new clinic, and we have them custom made with the logos and my name on it. It's pretty exciting. Been waiting for a while to get these, so we're actually going to go pick them up now. Remember the two separate transactions, right? That's what we did. We did two separate transactions.
Usually I would say he's come back a better person and, you know, he's become more spiritual. But for him, even before he went to Ziyarah, specifically Samer, he had a different vibe to him than other people. So Ziyarah has definitely, you know, complemented his spirituality. He came back more knowledgeable. He's experienced that, you know, that amazing experience of going to Ziyarah, millions of people, and all that. But I feel like a lot of people go to ziyarah, a lot of people go to hajj, and then they believe that they've become a different person. I feel like it's the foundations that count. You're a good person to begin with, and then ziyarah and hajj just complement your spirituality.
MashaAllah, everywhere he goes, he has his books now and he prays. His prayers are a lot longer. I mean, before it was just a quick pray. Now, MashaAllah, he takes his time. He always asks me to take his time. He prays on time. He wakes up every morning to do his salat. I know he used to do somewhat of it before he went to ziyarah, but when he came back, he stressed more about that. And he started praying salat al-layl every day, but most of the time he prays salat al-layl before he sleeps. He reads the Quran a lot more. He got better in his Arabic. So, I mean, definitely the ziyarah did make a difference.
Him going, and my friend Hussein went, and my father's friend Hajj Mustafa went. So them all going and sharing their experiences and sharing, everything they've gone through together has kind of enlightened me a little bit in that sense. So to go as a group, I would love that, to experience that as a group. That's something I look forward to.
So this is a company, the Flooring Liquidators, that we'll be getting our tiles from. It's very convenient. It's actually right next door to us, so pretty convenient. So,
Flooring Liquidators.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
I was looking at these kind of floors actually, to be honest.
Hardest. It's not the hardest. There's AC5, but it's a commercial grade hardest. The filling studio. It will blend in with the machines more.
I think him being a practicing Muslim and him being very spiritual has essentially built up his character overall. So it's kind of shaped him to who he is today, and it's shaped what he has, the objectives he's set out on, and his ambitions and whatnot. So I think, in my opinion, theology in general, religion in general, kind of it benefits an individual in a very positive way. It kind of builds up on that. Of course, you have to have a good foundation. You have to start off as being a good individual, but religion just builds that up, and it kind of complements everything. So it complements your character, it complements your personality and your outlook. And I feel like for him, it's done quite well in that sense. He has a very nice character. Anybody can get along with him. You always look at him, he has a smile on his face. It's very rare to have a smile on your face whenever somebody looks at you. You know what I mean? It just means you're at ease. He's very comfortable.
The importance of my faith in dealing with life's hardships is just as important as it is for a human to breathe. Alhamdulillah, I try my best to remember that if something happens to me, whether it be good or bad, I know in my mind that this is a test from Allah. Because Allah tests us in many ways. And I try to my best to remember just to say Alhamdulillah, regardless of the circumstances. I personally feel really attached to the Ahlul Bayt. And I feel like it's not right for me to say that I'm from the Shia of Ali, or the Shia of the Ahlul Bayt, or a true follower, unless you actually learn about the Ahlul Bayt, learn about their history, learn about all the tragedies they went through, all the hardships they went through, the sacrifices and the amount of patience that they had. I try my best to maybe, if I can, just set aside an hour or half an hour every day just to read from our books, read the teachings, the messages they're trying to send to us. Especially living in a society like here in Canada, we need something like this to hold on to, something to strengthen us. And one thing I try my best to remember, especially in times of desperation, I try my best to remember that Allah does not test us beyond what we can handle. He knows better than ourselves what we can handle. And one quote I particularly remember from Imam Ali alayhi salam, how he mentions, we are all just travelers, just traveling to our final destination. And that is sort of a drive for me to remember that this life is just temporary. And we're here to do our best just to pass this exam that we're doing here, just so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can accept us into Jannah, inshallah. Allah is also, He's our sustenance of life, and we have to remember that. He is Al-Khabir, the all-aware, and Al-Kabir, the great, and we need to remember this. On the Day of Judgment, I've always prayed for Imam Ali alayhi salam to accept us as his Shia. And if he accepts us as a Shia, we know he's happy with us. And then we also know that the Prophet is happy with us. And if the Prophet is happy with us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is happy with us. And I hope that Imam Ali alayhi salam will give me the water of Al-Kawthar, and when we meet up at Al-Kawthar, and he takes me by my hand, and enters me into Jannah, inshallah, with all of our family.
The most important thing and something that stood out the most was his spirituality. And we've talked about this before. We've talked about how, because me and him share the same language barriers, the same cultural barriers. You know, we grew up in Canada. We don't have that familiarity with the language and the culture as in people back home in Lebanon or in Iran or Iraq or Syria or one of these countries. So it's a bit tougher for us to get engaged with our religion in that sense. But he has done, he's taken that track where he has put a lot of time into theological readings. He's read a lot of books, even in English. Of course, it's a little different than Arabic, but you still get the same meanings out of them. So he's put a lot of time into that, whereas a lot of people, even me, I put a lot of time into, let's say, going to the movies or watching a new TV show. But for him, he has set aside time to read up on these books. He's gone to ziyarah, so he's dedicated time to his religion, and I feel like that's something I would like to benefit from.
Another big hope for me is that when Imam Zaman returns, that I will be with him. I will have the strength and the courage to actually make an effort and go to him. They say that there's 3 types of people upon his return. The first type of people, they'll procrastinate and say, you know what, I'm not going to go now, I'm not needed, I'm okay, I'll leave it for other people. The second type of person will say, no way, I can't leave, I have a business, a family to run, I'm too busy right now. And you have the third type of people, where I hope to God that inshallah all of us will have the courage to be like this, where we would crawl over ice and snow and any type of terrain just to get to him. "11 years ago, I remember this dream I had in particular. This is the dream that kind of set my life on the right path. I had a dream where I was in a large room, me and my mom was very religious. Alhamdulillah, she's very religious. And it was just me, her, and a table in the middle of the room. My mom was laying on that table on her back, and there was 2 doors to that room. They were open, and there was a level of nur coming in through those doors, a brightness. Unlike here, it's like a heavenly nur. And the whole room was lit up so light and bright, and my mom's face was even lighter than that. And she was happy and laughing and smiling. I was in the same room as her, where the light should be hitting, but I was crouched in a corner, feeling very depressed, sad, crying, shivering. And I remember till now feeling so fearful in that dream. And the reason being was because I know the day of judgment has begun, and my mom, because she did so well in her life, she's going to Jannah, and I know what's waiting for me. And I found this to be just a great inspiration for me to the rest of my life. And when I was lacking in my faith at that time, I feel now I'm so much stronger now. And I believe, subhanAllah, Allah said the level of respect Allah gave the mother in this world. I remember my mom, because she loved and cared so much for me, she would pray to God that He would show me a dream, something, anything, just to get me on the right path. And alhamdulillah, Allah answered her prayer that day and gave me this dream. And I thank Allah for that.
I really stress on them focusing on the family and their friends that surround them, especially their families, because if he focuses on his son and his daughters, in the future they'll focus on their kids. And if he focuses on his brother-in-laws and his family and his friends around him, even though they don't get everything, slowly they will become better. And better people will help other people. And overall we'll succeed. We need to keep doing programs or participating and mentioning this stuff around each other, because this is a major key, especially for us. We're living in a westernized country where there's not a lot of this stuff everywhere you go. It's not like back home. Everywhere you go, there's a mosque, there's adhan, you hear stuff. So it's very important and crucial that Samer and the other people who have this kind of knowledge and are open to this and know a lot about it, to keep spreading the word around. And inshallah, we'll have many more people like them.
One other thing I find so heartwarming is when I'm praying, for example. My son is 2.5 years old. He sees me praying and doing sajda, and he knows where I keep the sajda, so he goes and he grabs one, he puts it next to me, and you see him, he looks at you and he imitates you. With whatever you're doing, he imitates you. And whenever I see him doing stuff like that, it just reminds me of how Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein, they used to do with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And even sometimes when I'm sujood, how he climbs on your back and he stays on your back. it gives you such a heartwarming feeling, and you feel like you're doing something right. It just feels right.